Now let's talk about credit ratings. Credit ratings are a wonderful tool to tell you how risky it is to loan money to a company. And the reason why companies have credit ratings, they hire outside agencies like Moody's to analyze their financial statements, and sometimes they even give them more information to do that analysis. So that they'll give the company a rating, and we'll talk about how these ratings work. And those ratings help you determine whether or not the company's bonds are a good buy, really what the interest rate should be on those bonds. So these credit rating agencies assess the credit risk, and they don't actually loan the company any money. They don't have any interest in making it higher or better. They're relatively unbiased raters, and so their ratings are very helpful in determining what the value of the bond should be, or really what the interest rate should be. And they consider all the information that you would need to consider. These are professional credit analysts who issue these ratings. And they save us a lot of the trouble of doing this. Now, many of you may go on and you may work for a credit rating agency, and so you may actually be doing this as part of your career. And that's why this class might be helpful. So here you can see Standard & Poor's and Moody's, who are the two primary credit rating agencies. And S&P has they each have what they call investment grade and non-investment grade. And the higher it is, the lower interest rate that you would expect the company to pay, and the more willing really investors should be able to loan money, because you have high risk would mean that you need a higher return. And so investors would demand a higher rate of return. Whereas a low level of risk, i.e. high credit quality, would indicate that it's low risk and therefore the interest rate is relatively low. So it's kind of ironic because the non-investment grade companies, the ones with high credit risk, are the least capable of paying high interest rates, and yet that's what we're going to require them. We're going to give them a high cost of capital. So you can see here that they're relatively similar. Standard & Poor's would go AAA, AA, A, BBB, BB, and so on. Moody's has a slightly different system. It's a little bit more specific. And most companies use one, the other, or both. And again, companies are going to want as high a credit rating as possible, because the higher the credit rating, the lower the interest expense that they're going to have to pay. So they'll be able to raise more money with a high credit rating and pay a lower rate of interest. And investors are going to, I don't know if this is necessarily true, certain investors will not invest in their debt if considered non-invest. Right, certain investors are going to decide what kind of debt they want. Do they want investment grade or non-investment grade, what's called speculative? And then do they want highest quality, lowest quality? So what investors will often do is they'll just say, I'm looking for a AA bond, S&P AA. Or you could have an investor who's a little looking for some excitement, let's say, and they're looking for something speculative, and they might be looking for something in the C's because they like some excitement. So different investors, different strokes for different folks, so to speak. But here you can see the difference between A's and B's. And this is an S&P. This is Moody's. So yellow would be the rate of interest for a BAA, whereas gray would be the rate of interest for an AAA Moody's, highest rating. So the higher your rating, the lower the interest rate. Now blue is 10-year treasuries. That would be considered the most secure bond that you can buy as a U.S. government bond. And therefore, it pays the lowest rate of interest. So if you're willing to give up the security of a U.S. federal government bond, a 10-year treasury, and go to a AAA, you're going to earn a higher rate of interest. If you're willing to go to BAA, you're going to earn an even higher rate of interest. You go to C, then you're going to earn a higher rate of interest, but your risk is getting higher and higher. And here you can see the distribution of how these work. With very few companies are AAA. Most companies are in the triple B category for S&P or somewhere in the Bs. And a handful of companies are in the Cs and Ds. These are companies that, their bonds are trading at a very significant discount to the amount of principal. But you can hear it's AAA through triple B minus are 55% of all issuers. So what analysts are going to do is they're going to do exactly as I said before. They're going to know the economic environment that their industry is operating in, and they're usually experts in their industries. They'll also know all about the companies, what's going on with their financial statements and their competitive position, and they'll prepare their recommendation, and they'll periodically go over this recommendation with the committee for review. The committee assigns the rating, and then the rating agency is going to inform the issuer, i.e. the debtor, and also the market as a whole, of what their credit rating is. And they periodically review this to make sure that it's up to date. And here you can see different average ratio values for different classes. So when meeting in front of this committee, the analysts would need to show that, let's say if something is A, that they fit in with what you typically have for A's. So for example, revenue volatility, which is a measure of the variability of revenue, is a 9.6. You can see it gets higher and higher the lower it is. Operating margin, we've seen that, and these are some of the measures that are used for Moody's. And they give you this guidance. So you have, here you can see debt divided by book capitalization. The greater the percentage of the debt, the worse the credit rating. Now, in 2006, the Congress approved the Credit Rating Agency Reform Act, and it was signed into law. And basically, the SEC wanted better oversight the federal government wanted better oversight over the credit rating agencies. So credit rating agencies today need to register their activities. And there's 10 that are considered nationally recognized statistical rating organizations, including DNB, including Moody's, Standard & Poor's. And these are considered to be the best credit rating agencies. But there are a number of others out there. And this is all part of how credit ratings work.